Bitchin', that's it.
From the campus of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, you're listening to 90.3 KRNU, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Up the floor to Trey McGowan. He'll lob it for his...
On 90.3 KRNU, it's Huskers Hoops Live.
You betcha! Jazz Shelley has a triple-double!
Now, here's your host, Jacob Schwantz.
Welcome into Huskers Hoops Live, episode 18 of the 2024 season, and it is a pretty big one, I'll say. It was a very nice week of Nebraska basketball. Not a perfect week, still a couple of losses to talk about, but in terms of results and what this week could have produced, I think it's a pretty good week. I know the women's basketball team moved off the 4 line in the Big Ten tournament coming up this weekend, so that's a little bit frustrating. They moved down to the 5 seed, and also with Nebraska, you lose on the road at Ohio State, even though there was some momentum going into that game. You do pick it up a little bit after that with the win over Rutgers at home to finish the home season on senior day. But let's get into all of that stuff. We'll start with the men's basketball games from this past week. Then I will go kind of review the game at Illinois. Very close game for the women's basketball team. I'll talk a bit about the Big Ten tournament this week and this weekend. There's a lot of interesting pathways that Nebraska could take to get into the Big Ten tournament championship if they can pull off a couple upsets. And then I want to kind of look around the most up-to-date bracketology that I could find for men's basketball and just see some of the teams that Nebraska might be in contention of playing, whether it's as a 7 seed when we're looking at Nebraska as a 10 seed, or if some of these bracketology projections have Nebraska as a 9 seed, and maybe we're looking at other 8 seeds that Nebraska might pull on Selection Sunday a couple weeks from now. But we'll also look at some of the bracket experts specifically, not just like the websites that create these. There are people that create them, like Jerry Palm is at CBS, so that's why we're going to be talking about his projections. But after that, we'll kind of preview the game coming up this weekend against Michigan. And then we'll look around the Big Ten standings as well, to kind of see where Nebraska might be fitting into the Big Ten tournament, because they're in a similar position to what Nebraska women's basketball was in that they're currently on the 4 line. But there's a lot of teams right on their heels, including Wisconsin, who just fell out of it. You've got Michigan State trying to make a run toward that 4 spot. So if Nebraska can hold on, win at Michigan this weekend, they'll be a lock for a 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament. They won't have to play until Friday, I believe. Friday. So that's going to be very important. We'll see if they can get it done. But let's start the day with kind of a look back at the Ohio State game, because there was a couple ways that this game went wrong. My first impressions of the way this whole game went was that this was a March type of game. They had Jamison Battle going just right at Nebraska in the way that he seems to always do. He always likes a challenge and likes to maybe not necessarily get the production that he had in this game, but it seems like he always tries to do it because he is that type of offensive player. And I feel like when he really goes at Nebraska in this way, it's just really tough for the Huskers to deal with. Final score of 78-69. And Nebraska was pretty consistent. They put 37 up in the first half, 32 in the second, but even more consistently, the Buckeyes put up 39 in the first and 39 in the second. Rink Mast, 5 of 14 shooting with 14 points. Nothing super great there. Not a super efficient day. Did get 12 rebounds, though. But the rebounding was kind of an issue. Nebraska got out-rebounded by 10 to the Buckeyes. Roddy Gale got 10 boards. You got Felix Okpara grabbing 7 boards. And another issue that I kind of noticed in this game, Nebraska maybe took too many threes in this game. I know that's kind of their style, and they went 10 of 33 from three-point range. But sometimes you got to go away from it. Ohio State goes 8 of 21, not great either. But like you look at the rebounding numbers, you look at the free throw numbers specifically. Nebraska just 7 of 8 from the free throw line. Ohio State 24 of 28. It's going to be hard to win a game when the other team is getting 20 more chances at the free throw line than you are. And I know you're hoping that maybe you hit 5 or 6 more threes. That's probably about the equivalent of making up those points from the free throw line that the other team is getting. But then you have games like this where you shoot all those threes and you don't necessarily make up enough points. And the points that Nebraska was missing were probably those free throw points, because you lose by 9 on the road. If you maybe you make 3 more threes and you go 13 of 33 instead of 10 of 33. But you could also just get, 8 of 15 from the free throw line instead of 7 of 8. Maybe you go 12 of 15 from the free throw line even on a good night. So I think they have to figure out a way to be a little bit less one-track minded offensively. I mean, a 28-8 free throw disparity in favor of OSU is not going to be conducive to winning, in my opinion. But some players who didn't really give their best performance in this one, I thought that Casey and Jawan really struggled in this game, giving Nebraska some pretty good games as of late, but in this game specifically, they really struggle. Casey goes 3 of 12. Jawan goes 3 of 12. I mean, like I said earlier, ranked Mast 5 of 14. This was just a struggle game. Honestly, very much a struggle game for the Huskers offensively. But the fact that they were able to stay in it, I think, shows how capable this team is. Even when 3 of the top guys are having awful shooting nights, especially from three-point range. You look at Rink Mass, 2 of 5. That's not that bad. But Keisei Tominaga, 2 of 7. Jawan Gary, 0 of 6 from three-point range. That's just not what we have come to expect from those veterans on this team. And I don't know if Nebraska is able to manage with multiple top guys being so off the mark, clearly, based on the scoreboard. But some of the bright spots, though, Jamarcus Lawrence once again. I don't know what it is about the late season for him that he just turns it on, but he had 14 points on 7 shots, 3 of 5 from the three-point line with those 5 assists. And I just feel like Nebraska's ceiling is so much higher when he is playing in this way, because you get an uber effective bench piece like Jamarcus Lawrence. If he could drop you 10 points, maybe 4 or 5 assists, that's a problem for other teams. Most teams don't have someone that can consistently do that at the rate that Jamarcus Lawrence has been over the past maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And I think he's turning it on at the exact right time when Nebraska needs him. And hopefully it leads to some pretty impressive and important wins when we get down into maybe the Big Ten tournament or in March Madness, of course. That'd be huge. Somehow, even after chucking up all these threes in this game, though, Nebraska still outscored Ohio State in the points in the paint category by 6, which that's another bright spot, I feel like, because it's good to see that even when Nebraska's doing this, at least they can produce the points in the paint that they need in order to maybe calm things down offensively, or at least just keep their opponents at bay when the threes aren't going down. I think that's going to be important to not be so kind of one-dimensional and not have as many, three-pointer goes up maybe 16 seconds into the shot clock, no offensive rebound, and it's going the other way. Like, those one-and-done possessions are what's going to kill Nebraska in March. in especially the one and done scenarios that they're pretty much looking at the rest of the year. It's Michigan, and then the rest of the way it's one and done until your tournament's over. So I think being able to score in multiple ways is going to be important for this team. But let's get on to the Rutgers game, because that's a win. You hold Rutgers to 25 points at the end of the first half. Very impressive stuff there. And let me pull up the final score real quick. It was a low-scoring one, 67-56, but that's kind of the way that Nebraska's been playing at home the last month or so. I mean, the scoring has been a little bit better than that, but defensively, that's kind of what we've been seeing inside PBA in the month of February. It's 56 to Rutgers. It's 55 the game prior to Minnesota. It's 49 to Penn State the game prior to that, and then Michigan, 59 as well inside PBA. The last time somebody scored more than like 60-plus points or 65 points was Wisconsin, and it was an 80-72 overtime game. But outside of that, Nebraska has been pretty much locked down, I would say. So very strong performance. Senior day, so pretty much all of those guys got the shine. And somebody who really shined, I thought, was Keisei Tominaga. He goes for a huge game in this one. He goes for, 18 points on 13 shots. He had some of the most ridiculous shots in this game. Just crazy step backs, tough faders, a couple of floaters as well. So I really like that he got it going. 3 double-digit scorers for Nebraska, just 1 in the starting lineup for Rutgers. They had a guy with 10 points off the bench. That was Gavin Griffiths. He was really frustrating me because he doesn't usually go off in that way. And I mean, I don't know if you can call 10 points going off, but producing those important points for his team, that was really the only other guy that could get going for Rutgers other than Jeremiah Williams. So that just goes to show how good the defense was. And the defense this whole month, I think it's boosted Nebraska's standings and their statistical kind of rankings in important categories like the Ken Palm. So I think that's kind of what's been holding Nebraska at that 9, maybe 10 seed, even after losses like Ohio State. So this defense that we saw against Rutgers was huge, and Nebraska only played 8 guys in this game. So those guys were getting exhausted pretty quickly, and you go give them the run that they need in order to get some rhythm, get some chemistry together. And I believe that it's going to be successful because the way that this Husker team is playing right now, there doesn't seem to be any sort of ego or any sort of individual mindset. They're all moving the ball super well. They are all playing together defensively and then turning it onto the offensive end, sharing the ball, moving it in transition. So it's kind of exciting when a team can play like that. But we're going to step aside here on Huskers Hoops Live. When I come back, we'll get into some of the women's basketball from this past week on 90.3 KRNU and the Huskers Hoops Live YouTube channel.
Make a difference for kids, for people in poverty, for the environment. Join AmeriCorps and get things done right here in Nebraska. With lots of different programs to choose from, you can serve in your area of passion and develop your skills while earning money to pay for college or to repay student loans. All programs are filling AmeriCorps positions to start September 1st. Learn more and apply at serve.nebraska.gov. Sponsored by Serve Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
If you're experiencing anxiety, depression, grief, or are even just homesick, try talking to a friendly professional at CAPS, your university's counseling and psychological service. They offer individual and group services to any registered student at UNL. International students, that means you too. Just call your University Health Center on City Campus anytime Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The services are easy and confidential, and the best part is the first 3 sessions are free. Go online at health.unl.edu/caps.
What are you still doing with all those old t-shirts that don't even fit anymore? Why not get rid of them by donating them to Goodwill of Lincoln? Goodwill of Lincoln is a not-for-profit organization that takes nearly any household item and item of clothing. Its main mission is willing workers employed and community resources maximized. Goodwill also provides a safe environment for people with mental, physical, and emotional disabilities to be employed. So what are you still doing with those t-shirts? Your freshman 15 is less noticeable in a slightly bigger shirt anyway. Donate the small ones to Goodwill of Lincoln. To contact Goodwill of Lincoln, go to lincolngoodwill.org.
The risk of an American man developing cancer in his lifetime is a little less than 1 in 2. The risk of an American woman developing cancer in her lifetime is a little more than 1 in 3, but the death rates of cancer have been declining in men and women since the early 1990s.
I relay for the support of my sister.
I relay for the support of my grandfather.
I relay for the support of my uncle.
Keep helping those in need by participating in Relay for Life. Join us for Relay for Life at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln each year to fight back against cancer. Sign up for your community event or donate at relayforlife.org.
Exaggerating high school athletic achievements to your new college friends. Promising your new college friends that you'd a partial football scholarship to no-name state in Montana. What are these, you ask? These are the symptoms of someone with high school peaker syndrome, or HSPS. HSPS is a serious mental health condition that affects college students post-high school athletics. Thankfully, there is a cure to this crippling disease known as the UNL Men's Rugby Team. UNL Men's Rugby Team offers students the opportunity to relive those glory days. Tackle your HSPS head-on by visiting the rugby team's website at unlrugby.com.
Jake Schrantz back with you on Huskers Hoops Live. Thanks for joining me this morning as the college basketball regular season begins to really dwindle down in the final weeks. Women's basketball in the Big Ten is already set in stone, so we've got Big Ten tournament coming up starting on Wednesday and then moving through the weekend. But let's get into some women's basketball because Nebraska had a pretty big game on the road at Illinois. Just the lone game in between last week's show and this morning. It was at Champaign. And unfortunately, Nebraska did end up losing that game 74-73. Got a massive game from Jazz Shelley. She put up 23 points, 8 assists. It's an insane performance. She had 5 rebounds, 2 steals to go along with that. So very good performance from her. That's a performance from Jazz Shelley that is good enough to beat this Illinois team. If you look at what ended up happening, it's a 1-point loss. If things were other way around and Nebraska won 74-73, you're looking at this game saying Jazz Shelley did enough. She got the Huskers into a way that they could win this game. But where it went wrong was Kendall Bostic for Illinois got a double-double. Makaira Cook and Genesis Bryant, their dynamic duo in the backcourt, they went off. They went for a combined 37 points. And yeah, I know Nebraska had their top 3 go for some pretty great games. But in a 1-point loss like this, it's almost like every single mistake would get and does get kind of micro-examined into just a ridiculous amount because you look at something like the first quarter where Illinois wins 23-16. The rest of the way, there's not a single quarter that is decided by more than 5. And it's actually the third quarter where it gets to 5 where Nebraska wins at 22-17. So they kind of fight their way back into it in the third quarter. They actually also win the fourth quarter, 16-15. But it's such a close game like this where small things are what ends up turning the tide for whichever team is getting the small things done. And it's a game in March. And I think that this game against Illinois almost perfectly represents what March basketball is in college basketball. You've got teams going and playing physical, like Kendall Bostic, going and getting rebounds. She even had a play where I think she kind of knocked Jazz Shelley down, no whistle at all. But the real main issue in this game was in the final maybe minute or so in this ball game. I want to pull up the play-by-play of this game, not the broadcast, but like it shows every single moment or play that is made on the ball. So with 34 seconds, a free throw is missed by Makaira Cook. She makes the second one to make it 74-73. Then the rest of the way, inside those 30 seconds, you get a missed three from Logan Nisley, an offensive rebound by Callan Hake, so Nebraska maintains possession. She gets fouled by Kendall Bostic. So you get free throw missed from Callan Hake. The Huskers get another rebound, another missed free throw by Callan Hake, and then we get another offensive rebound, and then you've got a missed three from Logan Nisley, another rebound, and then you get a missed three from Jazz Shelley, and at that point you're looking at, Illinois it was just their night, because you look at the shot takers in those moments. All you need is one of those free throws to go down to at least force overtime, and you don't get them. You got some good three-point shooters in Jazz Shelley and Logan Nisley. And the three at the end from Jazz Shelley was pretty much at the buzzer. Wasn't a perfect look, but she's known to hit tough shots, right? So you're saying that shot has a chance. But you've got the Logan Nisley shot as well. And with all those extra opportunities, you would think Nebraska would be able to at least produce 1 point in those possessions, right? But that's just not the case. So it's a little bit frustrating the way this game ended. Jazz Shelley ended up playing 39 minutes in this game. I mean, that is absolutely physically grueling, but it's this time of the year. I mean, she put up 12 threes. I've been known to say that I like when Jazz Shelley plays in this way, where it's almost Caitlin Clark-esque, if you will, where she's just putting up as many shots as possible, and it turns out to be not the most efficient day, but it's a day that Nebraska needed those points. I mean, Natalie Potts and Markowski, they combined for 28, but it's on 12 of, 30 shooting. So again, not super efficient, and outside of that, nobody really played out of their comfort zone. I mean, Jess Petrie she put together 7 points on 6 shots. That's a decent day for her. Nothing, eye-popping, but definitely good for her off the bench. But in this game, Nebraska just needed a big-time win to finish the season. It would have been a road win in the conference. It doesn't do anything to necessarily move them anywhere near getting removed from March Madness or anything, because their net ranking and just their quality is still so high in women's basketball. But it does end up moving Nebraska down a little bit in the Big Ten women's basketball tournament. They play a couple days from now. The tournament starts tomorrow, actually, with the first round. You've got Northwestern and Purdue, and you've got Rutgers in Minnesota playing tomorrow. But then Nebraska plays on Thursday because of this loss to Illinois. They were on the 4 spot, but then with this loss, Michigan State picks up a big week, and they move into the 4 spot that Nebraska was holding because they came into the week pretty much neck and neck in terms of record. So the Spartans get that extra bye. They will only have to win 3 games to pick up a Big Ten tournament title, but now Nebraska will have a little bit tougher of a challenge going into this postseason tournament. I think I like their chances against either Northwestern or Purdue, but you get past that, you move on to a game against Michigan State. They only played once this season, And it was in East Lansing where Nebraska picked up a much-needed kind of revenge win from last year's Big Ten tournament against the Spartans. It was a very tough game in the regular season this year, and I was very surprised the way that Nebraska was able to come out and kind of from the beginning just take control of the Spartans on the road like that early in the season. I think it was a 2023 game. It wasn't even in the new year yet. That's how early in the season it took place. But it's going to be pretty interesting if these teams do end up seeing each other in Big Ten tournament competition in a couple of days, maybe on Friday, if Nebraska is able to move past Northwestern or Purdue, whoever comes out of that one. I think it's kind of a coin flip there. Both teams are near the bottom of the conference, both extremely bad seasons that I don't think either team was really hoping to put together in that way. But so you think Nebraska moves on past that on Thursday. That'd be a big upset if they don't. But then you move to Michigan State. If you beat the Spartans, you move on to the Big Ten tournament semifinals, and you're probably looking at either most likely Ohio State, the 1 seed, or you're probably looking at, I would say, maybe Illinois. I mean, they play Maryland in their first round matchup, or I guess it's the second round matchup, but their first game of the tournament. And yeah, Maryland's a pretty solid team. It's a 9-8 matchup. But I feel like the way that Illinois is playing, they just picked up a tough, gritty win against Nebraska at home, and that's how they finished their season. So I think you could see Illinois maybe pick that one up. They are the 9 seed, but again, 8-9, it's most likely the most evenly matched game in any sort of bracket. So I think maybe Illinois picks up the win there, and then you're looking at Ohio State and Illinois. Ohio State, I would say 99% is going to move on because that's how talented this Buckeyes team is. But hey, you never know. It could be a random upset day. Maybe Makaira Cook and Genesis Bryant kind of go off and match that backcourt of Ohio State. But more likely than not, if Nebraska is able to pick up 2 wins against either Northwestern or Purdue, and then the next round against Michigan State, they would play most likely on Saturday against Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament semifinals. And I got to be honest with you, I don't like Nebraska's chances in that one. They played the Buckeyes earlier this season, did not go well in the slightest. You had the 30 turnover game. It was disgusting. Absolutely horrible game to watch. And I don't know, maybe after that performance, Nebraska would be feeling like we need to get some get back on the Buckeyes and send them packing in the Big Ten tournament. But I just don't know if Nebraska has what it takes. We'll see. I mean, they've played and beat Iowa this year, so you never really can tell what this team is capable of. But I'm going to step aside here. We'll maybe finish a chat on this Big Ten tournament discussion, and then I want to get into some bracketology stuff and really dive into who some of Nebraska's opponents could be in March Madness on 90.3 KRNU and the Huskers Hoops Live YouTube channel.
The risk of an American man developing cancer in his lifetime is a little less than 1 in 2. The risk of an American woman developing cancer in her lifetime is a little more than 1 in 3, but the death rates of cancer have been declining in men and women since the early 1990s.
I relay for the support of my sister.
I relay for the support of my grandfather.
I relay for the support of my uncle.
Keep helping those in need by participating in Relay for Life. Join us for Relay for Life at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln each year to fight back against cancer. Sign up for your community event or donate at relayforlife.org.
The opportunity to grow your own fruits and vegetables the way you like them is right at your fingertips. In neighborhoods just like yours, Community Crops lends various plots of land to families in which they can grow their own food. Join hundreds of families in the Lincoln community as they work this spring planting and harvesting crops in the city's 15 gardens. Start today by registering for the Community Crops Training Program, or to learn more, visit www.communitycrops.org.
This is Logan.
What's up, everyone?
Logan's been going to UNL for 4 years now.
I know everything that's going on here.
Logan is somewhat informed about campus events.
Like the
football game, and I think there's some kind of election, I think.
Don't be like Logan. Pick up a copy of the Daily Nebraskan or follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Not only can you be updated with events on campus, you can read profiles on some of the most interesting people around Lincoln and get unique coverage found nowhere else, because keeping up with the news is one of the most important things a student can do.
Dad, I'm hungry. Why don't we have anything to eat?
Those are words you never want to hear as a parent. But unfortunately, putting food on the table is a constant struggle for many low-income families here in Lincoln, and they don't have the necessary skills to get and maintain a job. They rely on volunteers at the Center for People in Need that can help them through the struggle. You can make a difference in their lives by getting involved in one of the many volunteer programs that the Center for People in Need offers. For more information, please visit centerforpeopleinneed.org.
For a little extra help settling in at college, look to UNL's first-year experience and transition programs. You can receive one-on-one student coaching and tutoring to get you through that tough course, or you can attend free workshops for information on stress, money, even jobs and internships. First-year experience and transition programs will assist you with academic support or general life skills to make your experience at UNL successful. Stop by First-Year Experience and Transition Programs located at 127 Love Library South.
If you're experiencing anxiety, depression, grief, or are even just homesick, try talking to a friendly professional at CAPS, your university's counseling and psychological service. They offer individual and group services to any registered student at UNL. International students, that means you too. Just call your university health center on city campus anytime Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The services are easy and confidential, and the best part is the first 3 sessions are free. Go online at health.unl.edu/CAPS.
Jake Schrantz back with you on Huskers Hoops Live. Thanks for joining me this morning as the college basketball regular season begins to wrap up. Women's basketball heading into conference tournament play this week, and men's basketball is right around the corner from heading that same way. But I want to now kind of look at some potential March Madness matchups that we could be seeing for Nebraska as we look around at some of the more up-to-date bracketologies. Nebraska has been being placed at mostly a 9 seed, maybe a 10 seed. I've seen a couple of people with Nebraska at the 8 seed, but with the most up-to-date ones, Nebraska has been placed on Fox Sports at a number 10 seed. So they're at 10 with Boise State, TCU, New Mexico. And so in the way that March Madness works is they play a number 7 seed. A 10 seed plays a 7 in the bracket in the first round. So Fox Sports has St. Mary's, Florida, Texas Tech, and Gonzaga as the 4 teams that are projected right now before conference tournaments and all the rest of the season finishes up before March. That's what we're looking at in terms of the 4 options that Nebraska would be able to be placed against if they come in as a 10 seed. CBS Sports has Nebraska at a 10 seed as well. They've got a matchup currently projected against Boise State to be played in Indianapolis. That's their most recent bracketology. But some other 7 seeds for CBS Sports include Nevada, Colorado State, and St. Mary's. Interesting that St. Mary's is the only matching 7 seed between Fox Sports and CBS Sports in their bracketology. So wouldn't be surprised if that one is pretty much set in stone by the committee. But looking at all these teams, and even if, let's even look if Nebraska is able to move up to a 9 seed instead of being placed at that 10. Maybe they beat Michigan on the road, and let's say they get to the 4 spot in the Big Ten tournament. They hold on to that ranking, and let's say they make a decent run. Maybe they make it to the conference finals in the tournament. Maybe they go and play who would that be? They'd play Purdue in the semifinals. Maybe they upset Purdue. And obviously that's going to be tough. They've done it before this year. They came close to it last year, but those games were both in Lincoln when they played so well. And well, I don't know how they're going to play in kind of that neutral site format. Purdue is one of the top seeds in the entire March Madness tournament overall. So it's nothing that's going to be an easy matchup for Nebraska. But hey, let's say in just the spirit of this conversation and this thought experiment, let's say Nebraska upsets Purdue, and then you go into the conference tournament championship, and all of a sudden maybe you're looking at, I don't know, maybe it's Michigan State. They're a tough team. Maybe they are able to go make some moves. But I think Nebraska would probably end up playing Michigan State before that. So, I don't know. Get whoever you want in the championship. Maybe Nebraska wins the Big Ten championship, let's say. I know people probably don't want to hear that because you don't want to give fans too much hope, but let's just say it happens. You never know. It's a one-and-done format. Maybe Nebraska is able to move up to an 8 seed or something like that. So you've got maybe a 9 or an 8 seed with a good run in the Big Ten tournament. Fox Sports has a couple of teams listed at the 8 seed, including Northwestern, Colorado State, Oklahoma, and Florida Atlantic. On the other side for CBS Sports, they've got Dayton, Florida, Gonzaga, and Florida Atlantic. So, again, not a lot of carryover for the 8 seeds in Fox Sports or CBS Sports, except for Florida Atlantic. So you're probably looking at the Owls coming into March as an 8 seed, unless they can do some damage in their conference tournament. But it's very interesting. I don't know. I'm not honestly sure, because for Nebraska, it's all about winning that first March Madness game in program history, right? And I think they can do it this year. They have the talent to do it, but it's going to be about, can they defend the way they've been defending? Can they really play well not in Lincoln? That's been pretty much the main issue this entire season was, yeah, they can go defend and hold teams to under 60 points the last month. Yeah, they can go score 70 plus pretty easily, but can they do that consistently enough when they're not playing inside PBA? And so far this season, they haven't proven that they could do that yet. So you have to wonder if that's going to become an issue. And maybe Nebraska isn't able to get their first March Madness win of the year. And maybe it's going to be a season that ends in somewhat of a disappointment, because while you can never guarantee a win in March Madness, just go ask Virginia or Purdue, as they came in as the top seeds and dropped to a 16 seed, which had never happened before to Virginia ever in the history of March Madness. And then Purdue does it, what is that, maybe 5 or 6 years later, maybe a little bit more. So crazier things have happened than a 10 seed losing. I will say that. That's what's on paper and mathematically what's probably supposed to happen, is the lower seed is supposed to be beat by the higher seed. But in a March Madness format, you never know who could win. Maybe Nebraska picks up a first-round win, and I think that's why a lot of people want Nebraska at a 10 seed, because if you're a 10, you don't go on to play a 2 seed. You go and play a 3 seed. You don't even have a 1 seed either. So if Nebraska goes in as an 8-9 matchup, if they win that first-round game, they're going to either play Houston, Tennessee, Purdue, or UConn. So you're thinking, hey, I want Nebraska to be, listed as a 8 seed. Come on, guys, let's move Nebraska up there, right? Well, if they do win their first game, like let's say Nebraska's an 8 seed and they play Oklahoma, who's being projected as a 9, or TCU. First off, those are going to be tough games. They're going to be very evenly matched, very similar records to Nebraska. I think of those two that I just named, Oklahoma is probably the one I would want to play. They're 19-10 on the season. They've lost their last 2 games, so they're not peaking in the same way that you would want for your team to be playing at this point in the year. But let's say you go beat Oklahoma, and then you've got to go play like UConn or Tennessee in your next game. It's almost impossible to move on from beating a 1 seed. But I want to do a little bit of discussion now, because now that we are talking about it, of these 1 seeds, who would I want Nebraska to match up with, right? And I think it's probably UConn, because you look at what they have with Donovan Clingan. He's, if you don't know, he's their top big man. He's massive. He's a force inside. He can pass decently well. He can make plays for his teammates. And they also picked up the transfer Cam Spencer, who came from Rutgers last season, had a big year with them. But if you look at those 2 players, right, and you look at how Nebraska played against Purdue earlier in the season, and specifically against Zach Edey, I think they would probably utilize a very similar strategy defensively to what they had against Zach Edey inside, against Donovan Clingan. And then you've got Cam Spencer, who's not a crazy athlete, and Nebraska's already seen him last year with Rutgers, and they kind of know a little bit of his tendencies. He's been a lot better this year in the Big East than he was in the Big Ten even, and he had a very good year last year. That's a lot of what earned him the ability to transfer to a school as high as UConn. But those 2 factors, I feel like, give Nebraska a better chance than any of these other 1 seeds in the tournament. But the problem is, it's not just those 2 guys. They've got Stephon Castle, Newton as well. I think Tristan Newton for UConn. So those 2 guys are where Nebraska would see some major trouble, I think, in those games. But outside of that, I think Nebraska would be able to hold their own. But that being said, that would require that Nebraska moves up in seeding, which would need a couple more wins in maybe the Big Ten tournament and beating Michigan on the road this weekend in order to get as high as a 9 seed and move up from the 10. But you never know. You never know how this thing could go. It's such a tough projection because these come out every couple of days, and then teams win, teams lose, teams get upset, and then you got to move all these teams around. And it's so tough to watch enough college basketball to be able to get an accurate projection until really you see it on Selection Sunday when it's set in stone. So don't be surprised if some of these bracketologies you're looking at right now are not exactly what ends up happening in the actual Selection Sunday. They might have the seeds right, but they might have the matchups different. So you never know. Hopefully, Nebraska draws as good of a matchup as possible. I don't think they'll put them, even if they get up to a 9 seed, I don't think they'll put them in the same quadrant with Purdue, just because Nebraska versus Purdue in March Madness is just kind of a strange matchup. I don't know if they're going to want to put 2 Big Ten teams like right next to each other that way. I don't even know if the committee thinks that way, but we'll see. It would be fun to see Purdue one more time in March Madness, but don't go anywhere, because after this, we're going to kind of break down some of what we could see this weekend against Michigan in men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU in the Huskers Hoops Live YouTube channel.
Thanks for calling Jake's Bouncy House. This is Jake. How can I help you? Hi, Jake. My name's Stanley, and I was just wondering if you're hiring. No, we're actually not. Sorry for the inconvenience. Oh, Burt's Bees. I can't find a job anywhere.
If you're a college student in need of a job, UNL's Career Services is here to help. With jobs ranging from bouncy house employees to internships, UNL Career Services has a fit for everyone. Visit them on the second floor of the City Union or anytime online at unl.edu/careers. The help you need to make money is at the tip of your fingers.
The opportunity to grow your own fruits and vegetables the way you like them is right at your fingertips. In neighborhoods just like yours, Community Crops lends various plots of land to families in which they can grow their own food. Join hundreds of families in the Lincoln community as they work this spring planting and harvesting crops in the city's 15 gardens. Start today by registering for the Community Crops Training Program, or to learn more, visit www.communitycrops.org.
This is Logan.
What's up, everyone?
Logan's been going to UNL for 4 years now.
I know everything that's going on here.
Logan is somewhat informed about campus events.
Like the football game, and I think there's some kind of election, I think.
Don't be like Logan. Pick up a copy of the Daily Nebraskan or follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Not only can you be updated with events on campus, you can read profiles on some of the most interesting people around Lincoln and get unique coverage found nowhere else, because keeping up with the news is one of the most important things a student can do.
For a little extra help settling in at college, look to UNL's first-year experience and transition programs. You can receive one-on-one student coaching and tutoring to get you through that tough course, or you can attend free workshops for information on stress, money, even jobs and internships. First-year experience and transition programs will assist you with academic support or general life skills to make your experience at UNL successful. Stop by First-Year Experience and Transition Programs located at 127 Love Library South.
Exaggerating high school athletic achievements to your new college friends. Promising your new college friends a UW partial football scholarship to no-name state in Montana. What are these, you ask? These are the symptoms of someone with high school peaker syndrome, or HSPS. HSPS is a serious mental health condition that affects college students post-high school athletics. Thankfully, there is a cure to this crippling disease known as the UNL men's rugby team. UNL men's rugby team offers students the opportunity to relive those glory days. Tackle your HSPS head-on by visiting the rugby team's website at unlrugby.com.
Getting involved on campus, meeting new friends, and networking for the future can seem scary, but Scarlet Guard makes it easy for both graduate and undergraduates. Social events help students connect with others around campus, while the professional events help students network with alumni from around the globe. Possibilities within Scarlet Guard are endless, so join today. Go to huskeralum.org/Scarlet Guard or contact the Nebraska Alumni Association. Students today, alumni tomorrow, Huskers forever.
Jake Schrontz back with you on Huskers Hoops Live, wrapping up episode number 18 of this season. Nebraska basketball regular season finishing up this weekend. The Big Ten tournament in women's basketball will be going on as well. So there's postseason and also regular season going on at the same time. Very, very exciting. But the Huskers finish the regular season on the road this year, similar to what the women's team did just a weekend ago. And they take on the Michigan Wolverines. So let's look at them as of late. One of their last 10 games have gone for a win. They're 1-9, even with getting Doug McDaniel back. I thought that the addition of bringing him back in could have been maybe a little bit of a needle mover, not enough to move them any sorts of a way close to postseason, but you get your best player back, or at least one of your best players in the backcourt, and it hasn't really done anything for them. They're 8-22 overall, 3-16 in the conference. You remember back, they lost to Nebraska earlier this season in just an absolutely dominant defensive showing by the Huskers in Lincoln a couple weeks ago. It was on February 10th, so just around a month ago. Nebraska won 79-59. And folks, I'm thinking if there's anyone on that Michigan team with some self-respect, they are going to go at Nebraska in this game. It doesn't matter if postseason is on the line. It doesn't matter if they are really battling for anything. NIT is completely out of the question. They're 8-22 right now. This is all just about pride and not letting a team come into your arena on what's probably their senior day, if I had to guess, and just get what's going to look like an easy win once again. A 79-59 win. That's a 20-point win. I don't think Michigan's going to allow something like that. I mean, they might try not to allow it. Nebraska might just be good enough in order to put that together, but just look at the entire season resume. Outside of Kansas State and outside of Indiana, it's been a struggle bus whenever Nebraska is even less than a mile from PBA. It was those two games and the neutral site game against Oregon State, which ended up being in South Dakota. Nebraska to South Dakota, Oregon State to South Dakota. You tell me the difference in travel between those two fan bases. Obviously, Nebraska dominated inside the Sioux Falls arena there. So that was basically a home game. But I think the story is going to be different in this Michigan matchup. I don't know if it's going to mean Nebraska loses. I don't know if Nebraska is going to even struggle fully, but I think they will face quite a bit more hardship than they did in the Michigan game. I mean, you think back, and I can pull the stats up right now, but just off of memory, it seemed like Michigan could not hit a shot in that first matchup. It was 8 of 24 from 3. They shot 32% from the field. Just a terrible performance from the Wolverines. And I don't think they're going to repeat that. They didn't have Doug McDaniel in the matchup in February, so that's worth noting. He's going to be a little bit of a difference than Nebraska had faced so far this year. But you also think you get 19 from Casey in that matchup. You got 16 from Josiah Allick, which was a huge step up from what his production was most of the season. So can you say you can expect Josiah Allick to be able to repeat that on the road? I don't think you can. So at that point, you're trying to figure out who's going to step up and produce a little bit more in the absence of a 16-point show out from Josiah Allick. It's probably going to need to be Jawan Gary. He only had 5 points in the Michigan game earlier this year. Jamarcus Lawrence had just 5 points in the game in February. So those two probably will have to pick up some of that slack that will be missing, because I don't think Josiah, unless he can just prove to be a Michigan beater, I don't think he's going to be able to put up another 16-point game, especially on 10 shots, only 7 of 10 from the field in that game. He was excellent against the Wolverines in February. Nebraska will try to go take that victory, finish the season 5 days from now at 22-9 in the regular season. That would be 3-8 on the road, 18-1 at home. And I didn't really mention that in the beginning when we usually go over the news of the show. But Nebraska set a new program record for home wins in a season. I was going back and looking at some of the seasons that Nebraska would have been trying to compete with in terms of like the history of that record of home and really just like winningest seasons overall. And obviously, I only want to kind of look at like post maybe 1965. Obviously, basketball before then was not even close to the same thing as we have it today. But you look at this season for Nebraska, 21 wins. That is 6th most in a season all time in program history. And so you go, the best season was in 90-91 in the Big 8, where the Huskers go 26-8. But outside of that, every other season, outside of those 26-win top-tier year, it was 22. It was 22-2, 22-8, 22-10, 22-11. So if you're looking at Nebraska, they beat Michigan, and they go and maybe win in the Big Ten tournament. Maybe they play a Michigan State, or who else could they play? Maybe an Iowa. You never know who could end up matching up with the Huskers. We'll have to see where everything kind of shakes out at the end of the season. But right now, Nebraska's at the 4 spot, so they would end up playing probably either Iowa or maybe Wisconsin or Minnesota. I think those are the 3 they could end up playing. But, maybe they beat Michigan. Maybe they go into the Big Ten tournament and pick up a win there. And all of a sudden, you're looking at Nebraska's 2nd most wins in a season of all time. That is quite the year. And I think that would mean that Coach Hoiberg should get some heavy looks and maybe be the favorite, in my opinion, for Big Ten Coach of the Year. He came into the season projected in the preseason poll in the Big Ten to be the 12th team. And the way that they have just absolutely blown that projection out of the water to have what is going to probably end up being their 2nd best season in terms of wins in program history, a program that has existed since the late 1800s and into the early 1900s. They were playing college basketball at Nebraska. It's really impressive the way that this team has been able to completely kind of shake some things up and be that upper echelon of the Big Ten Conference. That's not something I don't think anyone was fully convinced that could happen, at least this year. Maybe with some more development from what they built on last year, maybe they would move into, a top 7 spot or be at that 7 spot in the Big Ten and, maybe make the NIT, maybe, be close again. But this year they could be firmly in March Madness pretty much out of nowhere. And I think that should gain Coach Hoiberg the respect for Coach of the Year. I know some people would maybe want to give it to Matt Painter. They're 26-3 at Purdue. But he's been known to do that, and the team was projected to be very good. So, you got Illinois as well. Brad Underwood. That's a team that was known to be good, but they were missing some pieces. You don't have Matt Meyer anymore. You try to reload with a little bit more talent. You bring back Terrence Shannon. They were expected to be probably a top half team, and they've been very good this year. I think Northwestern is another chance of a Coach of the Year candidate. But you just think of what Nebraska's been able to do based on the projections. This should be the year that Coach Hoiberg gets his flowers and gets that Coach of the Year. I think he deserves it. But you're only going to be able to do that if you can beat Michigan this weekend and move into win number 22 on the season. Keep those losses below 10. Heading into Big Ten tournament play, I don't know. I mean, when I came here 2 years ago, I did not expect a 22-9 season or even a 21-10 season from Nebraska anytime soon. I thought if it was ever going to happen, it was going to be with Bryce McGowan's, and he was just going to have to carry his Husker team to stardom, which is where the Huskers are at right now. 11-8 in the conference, could be 12-8 this weekend. Some huge opportunities for Nebraska to move up off that 10 spot in March Madness, maybe move up to a 9 or an 8 and potentially break almost a ton of people's brackets. And I'm honestly thinking about picking Nebraska maybe at least past the first round, because the way that they've been playing as of late and the way that I think this fan base is going to travel and the way that the neutral fans are going to get behind Nebraska in whichever arena they play in, whether they're in Brooklyn, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Memphis, even Omaha. If they play in Omaha, you can book it that Nebraska is going to win at least the first round matchup. There is absolutely no way that Nebraska loses in Omaha in March Madness. But we got to get there first. We got a couple more weekends to go before Selection Sunday. So we're going to wrap up episode 18 of the season of Huskers Hoops Live. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back in the future. Won't be back next Tuesday. It is spring break, so we'll have a week off there. But I'll be back after that to chat Selection Sunday and all of the March Madness postseason extravaganza with you on 90.3 KRNU and on the Huskers Hoops Live YouTube channel if you want to leave a chat. But with that being said, go Big Red. It's that time of the year.
Get the best new and local music on 90.3